Wow. Okay. What is light? Yeah, that, those, but what actually is light? Light has been a complicated concept over the years, a religious symbol, a metaphor for hope, for purity, for motivation, passion, and a whole lot of other things. But you've heard these metaphors 1,000 times before. You've heard those inspirational quotes of find your light and there's light within yourself and all that, but it doesn't help. It's shallow, it's thin, it's cheap. It doesn't call to you. So why not go deeper? Now, if you all will look under your seats, you'll find absolutely nothing, as the thing I want to show you is right in my hands. Just how many metaphors can light embody? Even in the darkest of times, it can shine on through. Light is persistence. There are things that cannot be seen in daylight, but only in beams of light in the dark. For example, dust particles. Light is clarity after concentrating on a topic. Light can be a particle or a wave. Light is the understanding. The happiness and the perception of different ideas can be different for everyone. What you see can change depending on where you shine it. Light shows us how changing your perspective can give various different insights. Light comes out of a source, bounces off something, and comes into our eyes to show us things. Light is coherence through discussion. When you stay in an extremely dark or bright setting for a long time, you might become used to the environment, and when you come back out again, normalcy might seem strange. Light, or its absence, are situations we can take for granted or submit to, even if it's unfair. Now, everyone, please cover your eyes. Close them, cover them. What do you see? Well, nothing. If you do see something, please stop watching my speech immediately and go to a doctor or a neurosurgeon because you have more pressing matters than this talk. Now, for anyone's and everyone's that's left, please open and uncover your eyes. Okay. Light is something that you can choose to see. Light is something that you can unintentionally shield yourself from, and and once you stop protecting yourself too tightly, you can see the light shining through. Similarly, you could be shielding yourself from happy thoughts in life. Someone could also shine light on you to help you out of your shield. Another metaphor. Never be afraid to ask for help, as others can help provide positivity where you might not be able to find any. Light exists, always, and understand that what's dark is simply an absence of light. It doesn't mean that the things you want aren't there, it's just that we can't see them because you think you can't have them. Think of it like trying to find things in a dark room. If you keep it dark, you might never find the things that you want. But if you bring a little positivity, which is light, in, you'll be able to fulfill your desires. But this still seems a little bit unconvincing. This is only a little bit better than some Google image search hashtag motivational quotes you can find in 5 seconds flat. So let me tell you how this came to me in real life. This is how I was masking myself from light in one of my darkest ages. In 2019, my mom got breast cancer. It was discovered that chemotherapy was the most effective treatment against her particular type, and she decided to return to Japan for proper treatment and came back sometimes sparingly for visiting us. There were high stakes after all, as the cancer was not a fledgling but in full stage 3. And as time passed, it was already December 2019, and I was having a piano concert. So when she came back she came back to Shanghai for just 3 days for looking at me and watching me. Though she had to submit her work visa, which was an enormous hassle, and she was stressed out, health-wise she seemed okay. The cancer, a beast of nature, seemed quiet, dormant even. We hugged, we laughed, and back she went again. But good times couldn't last for long, as like a sudden power failure from an ill-fated storm. The coronavirus struck, and transportation from Japan to China was halted for 10 months from January of 2020. The next time I will see my mom come home will be November 18th. Those 10 months were one of the darkest days of my life. To say that I wasn't quite myself would be an understatement. I acted stranger and stranger, being distant to friends and family alike, and I kept my mask on constantly, putting it down only when eating, and even skipped lunch several times just for the sake of it. It was like the COVID pandemic had blown out all the lights that was in my head, mind palace, and left everything hazy and dark. In hindsight, it was probably the stress of the pandemic combined with the lack of social interaction, with people starting to wear masks and avoid talking entirely. Clarity and advice was lost to the darkness. Worst of all, there was always the worry about my mom's health. Although she always seemed so strong in her calls, physically she was wilting away because of chemotherapy. And with surgery awaiting in April, the tensions just kept getting higher. April rolls by, and surgery day arrives. On the school bus, at school, and back at home, I was praying, begging even, for everything to go well. At the end of the day, my stomach was in a knot. The report comes in. The cancer has successfully been vanquished. I was ecstatic. I hated what I've been doing. The gloominess, the cutting off from others, the mask that has dug into my face. I thought it will all be gone. But alas, one's mental state cannot recover so easily, and just as my COVID mask stayed stubborn on my face, my hands seemed to grasp tightly to my eyes, shutting out all light. My mom finished chemotherapy in July and was making plans to return. People were already lining up for visas, so she feared she couldn't come back to see us soon. But the procedure was surprisingly smooth. It was because of her resubmitted work visa she had gotten a little bit before the pandemic. In other words, it was because of my silly 10-year-old mistake-ridden piano concert that she was able to come back and meet us. 4 months later, she returned to Shanghai on November and passed the mandatory quarantine on a hotel nearby, and on December 2nd, came back for good. Meanwhile, I was making baby steps on recovery. One of the first of those small steps was a piece I composed in 2021, a little after my mom came home. It was the first piece I've ever composed, and it's the piece you're listening to right now. On that day, when my parents asked me what my piece was called, without thinking, almost immediately, I responded, hope. Only now do I realize that that must have been my subconscious mind trying to break out of the mental cage I've created around me, trying to bring a beam of hope into my dark world. Alas, despite early signs, that was only the start of the long journey ahead of me. It wasn't until the first year of high school I was able to completely get rid of the mask. I was proud doing it, and it remains to be one of my greatest accomplishments yet. I feel like what helped me do it was how I kept telling myself, get rid of the mask, get rid of the mask in 8th grade, and made a vow to myself that I must never ever wear that mask again without proper reason, like getting sick. But still, a decisive moment was when I had the honor of attending a summer school for 3 weeks at the University of Toronto, and I interacted with strangers and students around the world. During the entire course of the trip, I didn't wear any masks at all. And I was able to maintain the cheery, bright self that I am today without a seal on my face. And I feel like that environment, that sort of welcoming atmosphere, gave me courage to bring my true self back to school. Now, as a 14-year-old in high school, the worst teenage to be, according to Reddit, I still feel as if I made an improvement from where I was before. I feel like I've become much more satisfied with who I am and what I've been doing with myself. Coming from those dark ages, I can definitely say that familiar relationships and pinning down some positive self identifying features helped a lot in recovering from that particular situation and mental state. My general point is that you can find light from anything. Throughout my dark ages, one of the reasons that I was able to keep hanging on was the hope that my mom would come home, the mundane happiness of daily life, my books, and my dad through everything and through the enormous amounts of stress he had himself, trying to cheer me up whenever he can. Light is everywhere. In the music that you like, in a funny moment shared with a friend, in inspiration gained from a good story, in the relationships that you've come to cherish. So, take this quote seriously when I say it. There is a silver lining in every dark cloud. Thank you.